Or the more places that are available that people can work, that's the positive. So
for
I'm always
sure.
I'm always pulling for AEW to succeed. It's just a matter that when I see something that I don't like, I'm going to say something.
The good thing
But
about
listen,
it is that they'll hold WWE accountable. So clearly WWE is watching because a lot of the stuff that from one week to the next they'll implement it.
yeah,
Especially now without a crowd, you see some camera angles change. You're like, okay, where'd you guys
exactly.
pick that up?
No, no,
So that's
no,
what I love really is that they can hold each other accountable and bounce off each other whether they admit it or not.
absolutely. No, that totally makes sense. You know, that totally makes sense. I've always been a big fan of the more competitors. This is the reason why I was always so bummed out when WCW went out of business because you know even though WCW at the end was not good at all, but it was still a place to for guys to work.
Yeah.
And then when ECW went down at the same time, I was like, oh man, it went from bad to worse. And then every other company that has come around since then, they've tried, but they don't come even close. TNA was the closest, and they were completely mismanaged.
Watch your words.
Uh-oh.
No, they were completely mismanaged. They were mismanaged. I mean, they had
Look, they just needed to pick a lane. They never did. It would
well,
panic.
I think what ended up happening with TNA is that this is the perfect example of having to serve too many masters. What I mean by that is when they got moved to Spike TV previously had WWE. They had WWE programming just before they picked up TNA. So obviously, when TNA came in, I'm sure that somebody at Spike TV was, getting in their ear and saying, "Hey, we want this to be, to have some similarities to Monday Night Raw and the WWE programming." So it was a bad draw because really TNA had no business trying to be WWE at the time, and it ended up really messing up their product because they had something really good going. They had probably the best young roster anywhere because people could say Ring of Honor was at the same level, but realistically, the general audience would never see that because Ring of Honor didn't have the same distribution. So, that's why TNA can kind of sit on that throne, but unfortunately, they just messed themselves up, man. Just mismanagement, a lot of bad calls, and you can make a lot of little mistakes, and you can everybody does it. You can make a lot of little mistakes and recover, but when you make a lot of big ones, and it seemed like they made a lot of big ones one behind the other, that just completely messed them up.
Mm-hmm. Think of Julio.
No, I
What are you
agree.
good?
I think TNA was just they were, in my opinion, they were mismanaged, and I think they tried to compete, and it backfired on them. Kudos to them for trying to compete with the big dog. No pun intended, but they just they just couldn't pull it off. Something happened here, and hopefully, and I'm rooting for AEW because they so far, they're trying. They're trying. The question is, can they continue this success and see, how far they get, and see how good. I mean, I'm pulling for them. It's true what Lou says. More, more wrestling companies out there, more competition, more money for the wrestlers, and better entertainment for us, I guess. Yeah. So like I agree with Lou. There's a lot of things that AEW is, I feel that are maybe not doing to my liking, but everything is fixable.
Like what?
There's a lot of guys in that company that I really, really like, and one of them is being, Kenny Omega. I mean, every time Kenny Omega's on TV, man, I just, I tune in. I try to watch his matches. I try to watch his segments. I try to watch his interviews. I love, I love everything about him. I don't know that much about him. You guys introduced me to him. You guys say, hey, you guys need to watch this Kenny Omega guy. And so far, it's just so good. But other than that, yeah, AEW kind of like still needs a lot of work to do. They're still essentially the rookies here.
I mean, I think it's been the best television show, and it's not close for since they've come out. I think they're destroying Raw in terms of enjoyability. I don't enjoy. I mean, Raw has gotten a lot better, since Heyman
Oh,
took
Heyman.
over, I don't know if his ideas are just getting through, or he knows he's learned how to deal with Vince and get his ideas like on the table. And like, hey, hear me out. Where before he probably couldn't do that when he was running SmackDown back in the day. I think he figured it out though. SmackDown is horrible. I'm sorry, it just is. It's so boring. Everyone is cold. Everyone is cold. You cannot say that about AEW that everyone is cold. Even to the fans in the building. Lou, you got something to say? Even the fans in the building feel that those wrestlers in WWE are cold.
Well, I'll agree with you on WWE's programming is a little bit is very stale at the moment, and because it's so formulaic. And I'm not going to speak on SmackDown because I don't watch it enough, just because of my work schedule. Unfortunately, I don't get home on time to watch it. The little bit that I do watch from Raw every week, I usually get to watch the last hour every week of Raw. And I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to implement, and they're trying to do is create new main event stars. And sometimes what ends up happening is that when they do that, it takes a while to develop these stars, especially when they have not been presented that way in so long. When you're trying to build them into main event statuses, it takes a long time to get there, or longer than it should if you would have booked them stronger throughout their run. With AEW, again, it's partially I think that I have a certain disposition about the presentation. I will agree. I mean, I do enjoy AEW's presentation in the way that it looks visually. It looks really cool, and it looks way better than NXT. But I think that WWE presents NXT that way on purpose, which I think that they should revisit that at some point. But with AEW, I think the one thing is that they do have certain people that they establish, certain stars that AEW has positioned. I think what they do is that they have probably too many people on their roster and not enough slots for them on the television show. So what ends up happening is a lot of times for me is that I'll have matches that I see on AEW with guys that are being positioned as the top tier stars, but yet they're working competitive matches against people who realistically are not presented that way. And I understand the psychology is that they're trying to get the guys to work with the bigger stars and hopefully everybody gets elevated. The thing is, when I watch the matches, I actually think that it does the opposite. I think what it actually does is it doesn't necessarily elevate the guy underneath. It actually brings down the guy on top. And I think that that's just because of the fact that those stars have not been created as megastars yet, because they're such a young company that they're trying. You can't make everybody big stars at the same time. You have to choose who your main stars are, present them as such, and even if you take like the Jimmy Havocs and and the like, and you put them in 5-minute matches against Kenny Omega and Hangman Page, Cody Rhodes, they don't need to be competitive 15-minute matches. I don't think that it actually makes any of those top guys look good, and it doesn't elevate Jimmy Havoc at all. I think it actually brings those guys down. Now, if these guys have been around 5, 8, 10 years and these guys are established superstars, then I might feel differently. But right now, that's just not. I think I understand the psychology and I understand what they're trying to do. I just don't think, for me, it's not really the execution is not working itself out.
Oh, it's working for me.
Oh.
What about you, Chris? Is it working for you? Like Darby Allin working with Cody, did that work?
Is it? Like, I would have probably never looked at Darby Allin if it wasn't for his work with Cody. I think about a couple of weeks ago, I think Marko Stunt had a match with what's this guy?
With Lance.
Yes, and I watch him come out. I'm like, this is not good. I really don't know why they're doing this. And I thought it was gonna be a burial. He was kicking his ass, throwing him around. I'm like, okay, but then they let Marko get his turn, and he got a few licks in before the finish. And I'm like, okay, I don't mind this little guy running away and just toying with this big monster and getting a couple hits in. But I see both points. Like, lose point, he shouldn't have gotten any fucking hits in. And I'm thinking, why are they having this match?
Wait, did you see it? Did you see it, Lou?
Yes, I did.
Yes, I saw it.
You didn't like it?
No, I
I
saw
didn't
it.
mind him. I liked him getting his licks in. I did.
He threw
I saw it.
he threw him so far. No one could have took those bumps that Marco took.
But
Yeah.
I'll
No, go
let
ahead. I'm
I'll
sorry.
let Julio talk first,
Go
and
ahead,
then I'll
Julio.
give
Go
you my
ahead,
Yeah, no
Julio.
problem.
response.
Go ahead, Julio.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, I saw the match. I thought it was rather entertaining when when they have both guys in there. I was like, oh my god, this is gonna be like a clusterfuck. This is
Yeah.
like a squash. But I do agree with Vic. If anybody was gonna take those bumps, it was gonna be Marko Stunt. But in the same way, I agree with Lou. Like if you're putting these main event guys against mid-level guys and giving them 15, 20 minutes, it kind of like brings them down a little, as opposed to just, hey, let's do a quick 5 to 7 minute match. Let's put you out there. Let's see what you got, and then in the future we'll go from there. But yeah, I kind of when I compare both companies, I see WWE as an entertainment company. AEW leans more towards kind of like a sports company, because they're very competitive. The WWE is all about storytelling and characters. Not saying that AEW is not, but AEW really they kind of remind me a lot of TNA. They focus on the in-ring work, which is it's not a problem at all. But I think they maybe need to work on their just a little. Not that there's nothing wrong with them right now.
You watch every episode?
I just think about so you compare, if we're gonna have a squash match, we can compare the stuff we've seen the last 2 weeks on Raw and SmackDown, where they'll introduce someone or they'll have someone come back with a complete nobody. We're never gonna see this dude again, and they just destroy him. I don't want to see that. Save that for I don't care. So YouTube series, 205 Live. I really don't want to turn on SmackDown and watch Braun Strowman take on a nobody and just destroy him in 5. Bring someone else out that can actually work. Maybe it's because of the coronavirus or what have you that they can't have certain people there, but I don't want to tune into a 2-hour show and then 5-10 minutes of they legit have 3 or 4 squash matches like a week ago. And why am I watching this? I want to turn it off.
I think they happened on Raw this week too, if I'm not mistaken.
Well,
yeah, I really don't want to see that.
Well, here's the thing about squash matches, right? Squash matches are not necessarily a bad thing in professional wrestling. They're actually a very good component, and I think this is actually WWE's fault. So I will say this is WWE's fault. When they went to a format to where Raw and SmackDown was, 2 hours back in the day. This is when Raw and SmackDown were both, when Raw was a 2-hour show. You had 4 hours of competitive matches, almost pay-per-view level shows every week. And then if you add Monday Nitro to that mix, WCW Thunder, now you start adding all the hours of TV. What ends up happening is that now you give an expectation to your audience about what your television show is supposed to be. I think that sometimes you should have squash matches, especially when you're introducing new talents or when you're reintroducing somebody who may have been out on injury for a long time and there's no particular storyline to place them in immediately, so you want to reintroduce them. Listen, give them a squash match, make them look good. Not all of them are going to be exciting. Do you want to have a 2-hour show of that? Absolutely not. I got you, Chris. I understand that. I wouldn't want to see that either. Now, when you take a look at the match between Marko Stunt and Lance Archer, the reason why I look at that match and say it's the psychology of the match. When I walk into this match, my thought process is not about what can Lance do against what can Marko do. That's not what I'm looking at. The psychology is what's the business of this match? This is Lance Archer's second match on TV for AEW because he was introduced a week before, and he wrestled some bald dude that I can't even remember his name. He beat him in 3 minutes. That guy, the only offense he got was every single bump he took on the mat. That was his only offense throughout the whole match. So you put Marko Stunt in there, who's half his size, half the size of the guy who he squashed the week before. And even if Marco's offense is running around and get 1 or 2 forearms in, no, none of that. What Marko needs to do is try to run around and try to escape him, but in no way, shape, or form should he be getting any kind of offense that Lance could even slightly register. If Marko tries to do anything, Lance just needs to look at him like, please, that tickles. boom, smack him around, knock him down. And the thing is that he's got to beat him quick. Again, when Marko Stunt, think about it. Marko Stunt is 5 feet tall and probably weighs 110 pounds. Lance Archer 6'8" and probably a cheeseburger away from 300. Give me a break. No.
I mean, but you've
the
seen
psychology of the match. It's not a matter of, listen, I'm sure that Marco's very athletic and can do certain things, but the psychology of the match and the way that they're presenting Lance Archer with all the vignettes and Jake Roberts introducing him, there's no way that Marko Stunt, the only offense Marko Stunt should be getting is the bumps he takes on the mat. That's it. Nothing.
I have a question. Did Lance Archer look good in that match?
Yeah, he looked great.
Yeah,
he looked phenomenal.
No. Here's the thing.
Everyone was talking about Lance Archer that day.
Here's the thing. When I finished watching that match, as much as I wanted to believe it, I actually liked Archer's match from the week before better because I think that it actually got the point across better. Because you listen, no. Because here's the thing. The thing that people are thinking about is when Lance took Marko and threw him into the other wrestlers in the audience. Fine, that's just a bump. But the thing is that I don't think of it as within the bell-to-bell structure. It just
Okay, well, hold on. How do you get Marko over then?
You don't.
Well, that's not good. That's not good. That's not good.
Dude, listen, here's the thing.
I'm trying to get all my talents over.
No.
That's just me personally.
Here's the thing about Marko Stunt. Marko Stunt is over with that audience, but the thing about it is at no point should he ever be presented as a competitive athlete against any of the wrestlers in AEW simply because of the size. It's because of the size. And listen, if Lance Archer was 5'7" and 150 pounds, I can understand how Marko could have a competitive match.
But it wasn't competitive. It was not competitive.
I know, but zero offense, nothing.
No,
that's tough because then we can wipe out.
That's insane because I've seen fights with little kids fighting kids twice their size. They get a hit in. The hit doesn't work, and that's exactly what happened. But
the thing about it is that the person who you want to get over emphatically is Lance Archer.
He got over emphatically. He got over emphatically.
I'm telling you, when I saw the match, I'm watching it based on the psychology of it. That's all it is.
You're watching it with a prejudice towards Marko Stunt.
Maybe.
Yes,
maybe.
you are.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing. You could have put him in there against somebody else. See, the thing is that if you're going to have Lance Archer get over on and have squash matches, he should not be getting squash matches over on talents that have appeared on TV and have some rapport with the audience, not in his second match. Now, there might be an issue that Marko Stunt may have been the only person available, but if I'm AEW, I'm getting local talents and just saying, hey, listen, we'll put you on TV, you'll have a 2-minute squash match, and you get Archer over. Because the thing is, realistically, you can have a situation like that, but it would make more sense if that was to lead to some kind of an angle, meaning, hey, I beat up Marko Stunt in, after 6 weeks or 8 weeks of having him, Lance Archer just take everybody's lunch, and then he actually beats up Marko Stunt, which leads to a match with either Jungle Boy or Luchasaurus. There has to be an angle that leads to it. That might happen later on down the line, but in his second match on TV, no. Have him work against, Joe Schmo, and then you build Archer up. I thought that for a second match, and again, even though Marco's doing the right thing, he's just running around and he's trying to escape, and he did get some, 1 or 2 shots in on him. It's just, again, the whole point of the match to me is Archer just needs to go in there and look like and just kill people. And at no point should a guy like Marko Stunt, and I'm sorry, it's a matter of it. Yes, there is a certain prejudice based on his size, but I'm like, no, psychology-wise, in a real, if this was a real fight, Archer would have probably broken him in half a minute.
Okay, but and Batista would have broke Rey Mysterio in half, and Big Show would have broke Rey Mysterio in half.
But here's the thing.
Absolutely.
But here's the thing, though, with a guy like Rey Mysterio is a once in a lifetime type talent.
Oh, okay. That could be a good excuse for any small guy ever.
No.
Marko, yes.
I think they were just trying to get over Marco's heart because at one point, if I remember correctly, I think Archer pinned him and picked him up to keep kicking his ass. I think that's what happened. And then I guess they're just trying to get over Marco's heart, which is, I think, good. In the long haul, we can just, this kid has heart, and get that over. But
Yeah, but that should be Jungle Boy's gimmick, not his.
Well,
yeah, he probably should have fought Jungle Boy. But they want Jungle Boy to get
Jungle
over.
Boy is gonna be a stud potential main eventer.
Yes, but
He will never get buried. He will never.
But here's the thing, but
Uncle style.
but the thing about it is, in a situation like that, if you was to have Jungle Boy in that spot, Jungle Boy could take a beating, could kick out, and could get some offense in the match, and it won't look bad. That's what I'm talking about.
But Marko didn't get legitimate offense in the match. He threw stuff at him that didn't work, and it was a 2-minute match. If that's not a squash, I don't know what is. It's a squash done right. I mean, I get what you're saying. They could have used enhancement talents.
I don't think that Marko Stunt was the right guy to use in that spot.
Where do you use Marko?
Realistically, listen, Marko Stunt in the package with the Jurassic Express, again, it works. You know, for me, it's like whenever I see Marko Stunt in the ring and he's working legitimately, exchanging, you know, in a wrestling match with any of the other talents, it's just kind of like, man, no, it just feels weird because the thing about it is that I've seen him in matches where, you know, the heels are just beating him down and he actually kicks out, and then he gets his own, then he's gotten his own comeback, which I'm like,
he's got to get something. I mean, it's wrestling. I know this is not the first time you've seen Jungle Boy. I mean, Marko Stunt's fighting guys who outweigh him by 50 pounds, 60. Lance Archer is much bigger, but everybody in AEW is not Lance Archer.
Lance Archer is an anomaly.
AEW maybe has 5 guys that are 265 or more.
Yeah, that's true.
WWE has guys that are 400 pounds, 350, 320, 310, fighting guys that are 210, 205, and no one bats an eye.
Well, because but still, think about it though.
That's a 100-pound weight advantage.
It's still, but at the end of the day, when you look at Marko Stunt working in the ring, it's like again, look. Listen, I am by no means the leaning tower of health, but if you were to stand me next to Marko Stunt as a fan, I'd probably dwarf him. So when I see that a guy that small working legitimately against guys that look like athletes, that's a bridge that's a little difficult for me to divide. Again, I understand that it's sports entertainment and I understand that it's not shoot fighting, but at the same time, it's still presented as combat sport. And there's a part of me that there's just certain lines that are a little difficult for me to view. And I don't think that Marko Stunt, at least to me, it's like when I watch him, it's like even from the way that the announcers, you know, talk about him, and even because I don't think I've ever seen really Marko cut a promo, but a lot of what he does, it doesn't seem to connect well with me. There always seems to be this element of like, when he's in the ring working, it almost takes me out of the match, you know, based on just, you know, there's a certain level where I'm like, yeah, maybe it might be that he's too small, but at the same time, I'm trying to find like something that I can attach myself to with this guy that can make me care, and at the moment, I haven't found it.